we see here in Sky Castle where they were buying college coordinators. But here in America, like, they're actually buying places in colleges. So, like...
Hello.
Hi.
Welcome to Drama Deep Dive. And you'll see on the screen we actually have a K-pop song, not a drama, because we're gonna mash a bunch of things together that all follow a theme today. And our theme is education.
Yes.
If you've watched some of our other videos, you might know that we are both educators. We have had different experiences, but between us, we've had, like, I'd say the gamut of American education experiences.
Pretty much so.
Whether it's through where we went to school or where we've taught or worked. So we've seen a lot. So how many years have you been in schools or education, I will say?
20 years.
Yep. And I'm on 13, some of it in schools, some of it in out-of-school education-related work. Yeah. So... we, between the two of us, have a lot of experience in this area, and
from private schools to public schools to charter schools,
to all of them,
we've gone through it all.
Rural, urban,
everything,
suburban. So we probably will have a lot to say. And what brought this up is, I'll actually let you say what brought this on.
So it started with Moments at 18, just looking at that whole educational system, and I think what I got out of it is just looking at it from the adult's point of view, and it just brought around like very strong emotions with me. And then recently I finished Sky Castle, and that just exploded, and I was like, oh, I want to do something about education on our channel. And
when I watched Moments of 18, and I did do a recap this morning, like I refreshed my memory because it's been a while, that also made me super emotional. And I just watched Sky Castle to prepare for this. Because I'll be honest, I wasn't in love with Sky Castle when I tried to watch it previously. But interestingly, that one didn't make me as emotional. And we'll talk about that. I'm not sure why. Maybe talking about it today will help me know why.
And I think for me, what I liked about Sky Castle was that, yes, they focused on the children. But what I liked about it is that the focus more so was on the adults and how the adults contributed to where the children were, how they acted, just, like why they were the way they were.
Yeah.
And one of the things that I kind of like looked at was American TV shows around school.
Yeah, I saw,
And a lot of them really just focus on the children and the children's aspect of,
True.
going to a school when you're, predominantly, rich and, you may be poor, or looking at schools where just how fun high school is, or, the emotional stuff that I go through. But of all the shows that I've seen, I think Fame and Boston Public are the only ones that show the aspect of the adults and how the adults contribute to a lot of the mental, emotional issues that kids have, and how we contribute to it. And I'm going to say we. No, because as an adult, as a parent, as a parent and a teacher, I see the things that I've done where I'm like, oh, like this has contributed to where he is right now.
Yep.
And that's what I liked about Sky Castle. We could have got more of the kids, but I like looking at the adults and looking at the adults and like their mindsets, because for the most part, most of their parents, they had like a set that was coming from a poor like situation. And I noticed that parents who come from poor situations actually add more stress to their kids just as much as parents who come from like rich backgrounds, because of the fact they don't want them to be like they were, but not realizing we still got to allow them to be them and figure things out on their own.
Every human has their own journey.
넌 절대 지탄받을 일 하지 않았단 얘기를 하는 거야.
어머니는 항상 이런 식이죠? 네, 좋아요. 그럼 해법 좀 알려주세요.
해비야.
저 이제 어떻게 할까요? 어머니가 공부 열심히 하라고 해서 학력고사 전국 1등까지 했고, 어머님이 의대 가라고 해서 의사 됐고, 어머님이 병원장 되라고 해서 그거 해보려고 길을 쓰다가 내 새끼 죽어 오르고 애날 죽였잖아요. 저 이제 어떻게 하냐고요.
Right, regardless of like who your parents were, like you are still on your own pathway, right? And I think like I'm not a parent, right? But I think sometimes what adults do is we try to like take away the part of kids' pathways because we don't want them to hurt or suffer or go through hard things.
Right.
And that's not really fair, because the hurt and the suffer and the hard things are part of it. Like you can't just like
right,
cut those things out. Like, and then you can't just cut those things out and then expect that kid to grow into like a functioning adult.
Right.
Because to be a functioning adult, you have to live through things. Right? Like, so like it's
one of the things that I kind of like live by is, this Proverbs that says, train a child in the way they should go. And I think as adults, what we don't realize is that we have to kind of raise them, train them, teach them to be ready to be out in society on their own. And so that means that we can't do a lot of, because I feel as though there's no middle ground with adults. We either overdo it with the hand holding and, wanting to make sure that nothing happens to them. I don't want you to stub a toe. I don't want you to get hurt. Yeah. Or we overdo it with putting so much pressure on them that you have to be this perfect, individual. Because at the end of the day, what it boils down to is us and our identity. So I don't want to look like this parent that doesn't care about my child, so I'm going to overdo it and, be a hoovering parent. Or I don't want to seem as though my child is this failure, because then I'm the one that's the failure because I didn't make sure that my child...
Well, and that was like in Sky Castle, the part that got me is like how much the parents felt like... And this, we see this in education too with a lot of teachers, like a lot of times teachers get blamed and parents get blamed for things that students do. And past a certain age, and the age group I work with usually is middle school, high school. And I literally say to kids, like, past a certain age, it's on you. Like, your parents have done what they've done to help you. Your teachers have done what they've done. Past a certain age, it's on you, right? And that was something my mom said to me. I thought it was interesting in both shows that they stress 18.
Yes.
Because I remember vividly, and my mom was hugely... she was a proponent of like I had to be independent. I was working at 12. Like, I was delivering newspapers because that was the job you could get at 12. And then when I turned 14, I was working another job and delivering newspapers. Like, she was very serious about like me developing my ability to do for myself. And when I remember being 17, right before I turned 18, and she said to me, she sat me down and she said to me, like, things are going to change moving forward from this, because you are now at an age where I have taught you everything I can teach you. I've tried to live in a way that is a good model for how I want you to live. But like, from this point on, your decisions are your decisions, right? And they're not a reflection of me, right? Like they are yours, and whatever choices you make, you're going to deal with the consequence of them. I mean, your dad and I are here, but like, you are going to handle your life, right? And that was at 17. It was right before I turned 18. And a lot of people think that's young. And I didn't. I think, like, I don't know. Like, I think while you're still a little bit safe and your parents are there as, like, a safety net, it's okay to be, like, take consequences for what your actions are. Good, bad, or otherwise. Because there's good consequences and bad consequences, right?
우리 엄마가 다 해결해놨어. 고맙다. 고맙다, 휘영아. 내가 너 진짜 버리는 줄 알았어? 아까 내가 너무 열받아서. 내 맘 알지?
그럼 알지요. 나도 너 제일 믿는 친구인데.
So, yeah.
And I know as a parent, for me, like with my firstborn, you guys, if you've watched any of our reaction, he's in some of them. Yeah, he's in some of our reactions. I was very hard on him because as a teacher, seeing what I saw and the mindset that I had, especially, when I first started teaching, I was like 23, at that time. So, of course, my mindset was, my child is not going to be like some of the children that I teach here. And I was very, 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 very hard on him. I was almost like a Korean parent, tiger mom on him. Like, you have to, strive to be perfect. You have to strive to be the best because it's a reflection of me. And I think it was a point where when he got into high school, and I was like, you know what? It's not a reflection of me because I've done my part. I've, raised you. When you're home, you're well behaved. When you're around me, you're well behaved. So now this is all a part of you. You're making these decisions. And I had to tell him, like, it's not a reflection of me, because when a teacher calls, I'm there. So that shows that I'm actually doing my part. And when I'm there, they see a difference in you. So they know that I'm doing my part. So now it's on you. And that was like at 14, 15. I told him, like, whenever you make a decision, that's a reflection of who you are. Like, what's your character? And for me, I'm of the mindset of cutting apron strings along as they go, like little by little. Little by little, yeah. Because I feel as though what I'm seeing now, what is happening within my generation is that we're clinging so hard onto our children, and then when they get 18, we let them go to college or live out in the world, and they don't have no idea adult.
One of the most powerful scenes in Sky Castle for me was the dad and yes, how do you say it? Yeseo. How do you say her name?
Yeso.
Yeso. Her father with his mother and him saying to her, I am 50 and I still don't know who I am and I don't handle my own
and
life.
I'm a shell. I'm
an empty shell. Like,
자책할 필요 없다고 몇 번을 말하니? 가자. 나가. 손님들 계시는데 이게 무슨 애티튜드야?
이 판국에도 체면이 중요하세요? 날 이렇게 만든 건 어머니라고요. 지 새끼도 몰라보고 출세의 눈이 멀어. 그까지 병원장이 뭐라고. 내일 모레 신이 되도록 어떻게 살아야 할지도 모르는 놈을 만들어놨잖아요, 어머니가.
and yeah, that part for me in Sky Castle was crazy. Like,
and I think for me that why I was so emotional with this is because of the fact that I see this so much, and it just kind of reminded me, to go back to moments at 18 where Sobian, who was the main female character, her mother was kind of living vicariously through her, and her mother wanted her to be this perfect top student because she didn't want her to go through the things that she went through. But it's like,
서울만 하면 되는 애들이랑 너랑 똑같냐고. 수빈아, 너 이 사회가 여자가 버텨내기에 얼마나 힘든 사회인지 알아? 너 남자들이랑 똑같이 시작할 수 있을 것 같아? 절대. 그래서 집안, 부모 재산, 학벌, 미모 그런 게 다 무기고 재산이야. 너 다 가졌잖아. 너 뭐 없는데? 그러니까 너 뭐가 없는데? 너 이제 공부만 하면 되잖아. 그냥 2년 딱 고생해서 서울대만 가면 된다고.
No matter what you do, you cannot, keep your children from going through experiences that they're going to go through. Like, it is what it is. And so, looking at that, just thinking about Soyjin, and the reason why she wanted Yeso to be the top, and it was because of her mother-in-law. Like, I came from this, low background, so now I have to prove myself through my daughter.
Proving herself.
And I'm like, but that's not fair. And just looking at just the mental and emotional anguish that it caused, and it kind of makes children become inhumane to me when you make them compete against other human beings. So now I don't see you as a human being. I see you as a competitor.
How many times did the dad say it, the other dad of the twins?
The
twins dad.
Professor
How many times did he say, like, they're your enemies? They're your enemies.
예서가 조퇴를 했다고?
예서가?
해나 죽었을 땐 꼼짝않고 공부만 해대더니 예서도 사람인가 봐요. 성적 기계인 줄 알았는데.
예서도 마음 아프겠지. 솔직히 우주까지 저렇게 됐으니 진짜 괴롭잖아. 공부도 안 되고.
지금이야말로 니들이 등급을 올릴 수 있는 절호의 기회야. 아빠도 이런 말까지는 진정하고 싶진 않지만 현실을 직시해.
And
first of all, your own twin brother is your competitor.
Enemy. Like, are you out of your mind? Do you think that's gonna make things better? It's not. Like,
it was.
That was crazy to me. That dude was nuts. But
yeah, and it was just like the competitiveness that we.
But in Moments of 18, what was the kid who eventually turns it around?
I forgot his
name. But he was the wealthier kid, and like. You could tell that was drilled into his mind too.
Right.
Everybody is my enemy. Everybody
and
is
so that's how he saw
my competitor.
I'm a different animal. You can't hold me back.
He was played by, what was his name again? Shin Sung Ho. I think that was who he's played by. And he pretty much was struggling because of the fact he had to outdo his brother. His brother was top.
Yeah,
but then his brother had an emotional meltdown and was in the hospital. So what he was trying to do was make up for his brother's defect.
내일 나올 거예요.
형이 이번에도 잘 봤대요.
그거 있지. 아버지 회사 조부장 아들.
조상훈이요. 일반에.
그래 조상훈이 머리 좋은 놈. 너 그런 놈들 조심해. 쥐뿔도 없는데 머리만 좋은 것들. 그런 놈들이 무서운 거야. 바로 나 아니야 그게. 맨주먹에 이 대가리 하나만 믿고. 여기까지 발발거리고 달렸노. 더도 말고 덜도 말고 네 형만큼만 해. 알았어?
But he wasn't saying, because he actually had his health was impaired because of the psychological effect of just being stressed out of having the top grade.
Yep.
And I just think about even looking in American society of how we go to the lengths of making sure that our children, our namesake, has this top billing where, we see here in Sky Castle where they were buying college coordinators. But here in America, they're actually buying places in colleges. So, looking at Lori McLaughlin and Felicity Huffman, having people take the test for their children. And I think that was happening a little bit in Sky Castle. But it's just to what lengths are we going to go just to make sure that we look good as adults? Whether as a teacher, saying that my group of kids, because I think in Korea, the teacher is responsible for a whole homeroom.
Yeah, I think that's kind of how it seems, obviously.
And then with parents, everybody, the kids are the ones that make them look good. And it was just I think another reason why I love Moments at 18, because of the teacher who was a sub at first.
The teacher is good.
But he, to me, embodies who we are. Who we think we are.
Or who we try to be.
Yeah, who we try to be.
보원결 선생님은 이제 2학년 3반 담임이 아니신 관계로 본회의는 우리끼리 진행하겠습니다.
제가 그래도 여기 이 건에 대해서 보고도 드리고 병문고 학생들도 만나고 다 했는데요.
Children first. I don't care what the system is saying. I don't care what the principal is saying. I don't care if you fire me. Children first. We're not going to go with the BS because of the fact that we want children to be healthy.
Yeah.
And not just, we want them to be successful, but we just want them to be healthy. We want them to be
But I think what I always strive for, and what I preach till I'm blue in the face to other adults, is a key piece of being successful is knowing yourself. Yes. And not the version of yourself that's presented. And this is another reason why I love BTS. Because they preach, love yourself, know yourself, speak yourself. Because when you know who you are, you will be successful because you know what makes you happy, you know what you're good at, and you can combine those things. You know how you work well, right? You can combine all these pieces that you know about yourself and pick a pathway that is successful. We always start with some image of success in mind. We don't start with an image of who that child is and what they're good at and what they do well.
And success is defined differently from everyone.
그래 임마, 내 눈엔 다 보여. 누가 출세하고 성공할지, 누가 빌빌거리고 쓰레기처럼 살지.
For me, I'd rather
it's the perspective.
Yeah,
right.
I'd rather be effective than successful because effectiveness to me is just what is your end goal. And my end goal as a teacher is to make sure that children are, one, fine, and two, are able to go out into society knowing what to expect and being able to, actually maneuver and, navigate what this thing we call life. One of the things that, the charter that we work together for, what we kind of realized that we had to stop doing, our whole thing was, college or bust. And that notion was seen in Sky Castle. You got to get into these 3 prestigious schools in Korea.
Which is ridiculous.
It's the same thing in America.
Ridiculous.
You got to get into the Ivy Leagues. Even for me as a black person, we have what we call the HBCUs, which are historically black colleges and universities. You even want to get into the Ivy Leagues of the HBCUs. But once again, going back to what I said earlier in regards in the time of COVID, is that we see that the people who actually held it down for us are the people who probably didn't go to college. It's okay to take a path that does not go through college. Why don't we start, actually pushing to kids? There are tech schools that you can go to. There are, other avenues that you can go where you may not have to go to college, but you may have to go to do some type of training that basically keeps the infrastructure stable. Because those people who went to college and are, doing those desk jobs are not the ones that's out on the front line right now taking care of our needs. Because, I've been home, teaching. Yeah. Whereas, there are people who have to actually go out and actually interact with people in a time when they're telling everyone else to stay home.
Yep.
So,
a society needs all the parts.
Yes, and
we can't function as a society without all the parts, right?
And all parts need to be respected.
And all parts need to be respected.
And it's like even when we're in the school, one of the things that we push with our students is that you speak to everyone. Everyone in here, every adult in here has a say. They have the right to go and correct you if you're doing something wrong. You don't look down on somebody because they're cleaning or because they're in the cafeteria. Everybody deserves the same respect because they're human. Had they not been here, then you would be in a dirty bathroom, using a dirty bathroom, or you wouldn't have any food to eat. We respect everyone.
The concepts that are shown in both those shows that they talk about in this song of just like devaluing a human being based on a like seemingly random scale.
엄마! 야! 들어가! 뭘 볼 게 있다고! 들어가 이 자식아. 아, 자식들 정말. 들어가! 이 자식들이 지금 말이야, 정신 못 차리고. 왜? 황원주가 그렇게 부러워? 한 달만 지나면 후회한다. 아니, 일주일만 지나도 후회할걸? 니들은 인간이기 전에 학생이야. 고3이라고! 대학 갈 생각을 해야지. 학교로 건너와! 자, 탐구 좋아하시네. 스카이 못 가면 뭐라고?
사람 대접
더 크게!
사람 대접 못 받는다.
Right? To me, it's like the perspective, like I was saying about the crow tit and the stork legs, right? If you just flip your perspective, a crow tit could win that race.
Yep.
Because if we were flying through the air, they would.
Pretty much so.
Right?
Pretty much so.
It's our perspective as a society that creates these layers. Just like race is a social construct, this is all socially constructed as well.
Right.
This class system and this idea of who is valuable and who isn't is all constructed by society. If you flip your perspective, that all changes.
He says, what makes me is not the college that I go to, but the person that I am. And I was just like, yes, that is so on point. But I think for me, I'm always dumbfounded by people who had to struggle in life to then get to a point now where they're actually implementing the same thing that kept them down.
I don't understand.
And I think that's one of the things that I liked about
me.
BTS is that they realized, we were here, we're up here, but we still remember, there's a down here, and those people down here are just as valuable as those people up here. So we're going to make sure that we value the army, because of the fact without the army we wouldn't be here. And so I think I'm always looking at in Sky Castle, especially with Sojin, you came from an background where you were humiliated because your father sold ox blood soup or something like that. I don't know. I guess
I think it's like a soup that's parts of the animal that are
for us, for blacks,
chitlins.
It's chitlins. Yeah,
it's like chitlins or
right. But it's you came from here, but yet now you're looking down on the people who are not. And I was just why would you do that, knowing how that felt? Why would you do that to somebody else, knowing that when it was done to you, you didn't like it? So
and that's why I was gonna say I liked the end when I didn't like episode 20 for a lot of it, but I did like the part where they were sitting around the table and
the new woman came in.
Part, but the long-haired lady that's kind
Jinjin.
Jinjin is talking about her son, and she has completely changed her perspective on her son. She's like, well, he's actually really kind and friendly, and he has all these positive attributes. And I'm an interventionist. That means I work with students that other people have said are struggling or below level. And so as an interventionist, one thing that when I talk to parents, I weave into the language I use is I always stress that you have to work from a child's strengths to build up areas where they're not meeting the rules we've set.
Right.
And I say it that way because I don't even like to say needs or weaknesses, because if you think about it that way, then it becomes weaknesses. Versus if you think about it in terms of I am working through this person's strength areas to build up areas where I know they're going to need these things in society, right? And that's exactly how her mindset switched. She went from being oh, my son is so dumb, to being actually my son has really high emotional maturity and and
he was very observant,
and he was very and then you can work with those things to build up if he does need to get certain grades to go to wherever he wants to go in his life, right?
And I think that's something that we as adults don't realize when it comes to the educational system, that a lot of the things that are taught in schools are not things that the kids can apply when they get out into the real world. And so instead of like, yes, I'm teaching you this content, but I'm teaching you this content to teach you some life, lessons, and look at it that way, and look at it that even our interactions is also a lesson. It's, life lessons on how do we engage with other human beings? How do we respect as an adult? Like, how do I show respect to a younger person so that they in turn can do that with other people when they get out in society, whether they're at that age or when they get older?
Because a key thing that people forget, and I don't know how they forget it, is kids don't do what we tell them to.
They don't.
They do what they see.
Mm-hmm. Pretty much so.
Kids don't become the adults that the adults told them to become. They become the adults they saw.
Yeah.
To close.
Yeah.
I don't know what to close with. I think...
Please let the children, be children. Yeah. Let them be children and, just...
Work hard to find the balance is what I feel like it is. It's it's a very hard balance to find.
Right.
But work hard to find the balance between supporting your kids...
And also raising them.
And raising them to be adults.
It means you can't let them just go and do whatever they want to do. You still have to instill those values in them. One of the things that we talk about is that, teach them what they need to do, but explain to them why. It's valuable for them to do that. But also don't stress them out to make them be perfect so that they can be your little trophies, because they're not trophies.
They're humans.
Yeah.
They're whole humans.
Humans that got to actually be around other humans when they get older and take care of us when we get older. So, yeah.
All right.